It is Monday, January 14th, 2013, and this is Daily D&D. Welcome to Daily D&D. My name is Mad Matt Wancow, and yeah, welcome. It is Monday here, and on our Mondays we tell you about what's going on this week. So, this week is going to start with Friday of last week, where I participated in an online D&D group that I've done, every once in a while. I was actually playing with this group that prompted me to start this channel after a video I recorded for it and decided that I liked doing. So I'm doing these now. You might have noticed. But anyway, last week we had a really hard encounter, and we're a fairly new group. I'm fairly experienced with D&D, and everyone's played RPGs to some extent. So I'm not worried about our creativity or our playerfulness. But the rules of 4th edition are different than a lot of things that they've encountered before in the games that they've played, which have been Star Wars RPGs and earlier editions of D&D. And so this week, I'm taking the night that we had on Friday of all of the little things that we did wrong with the rules, and I'm breaking them down, and this week it's all going to be not correction, but instruction, as saying, hey, this is what we could do. Because I firmly believe that playing D&D by the rules, and with everyone playing by the rules, is a better, funner way to play D&D. So, this week is going to be, a week of instruction on a couple things that I noticed that we could have done better. On Friday, we're going to be giving our class overview of the fighter class. On Thursday, we're going to talk about basic attacks and basic actions, the things you can do in combat. On Wednesday, we are going to talk about actions. Not the basic attacks and stuff, but the move, minor, and standard. We'll cover those in a little bit more depth and explain a little bit more of what they mean. On Tuesday, it will be more of a DM's Corner. We're going to talk about buffing and nerfing monsters in combat on the fly. And today, we're going to talk about healing. So, come join me this week on your daily dose of D&D. Not sure if I liked that title right there. We'll have to see how it looks in post. Tell me what you think down in the comments below. If you have any problem with anything that I say, please comment down below. I love reading comments. So, healing. Healing is a huge part of D&D. When you get in battle with monsters, you take damage and you get hurt, and it hurts. And if you don't have a way to heal, then it's going to take you, if you don't actually have a way to heal, you're not ever going to get better. And you just get closer and closer to death each time you fight. So you don't want to fight. In 4th edition, as opposed to other editions of D&D, it is really hard to kill off your character. There's a lot of conditions that you have to fulfill. First off, your character has a lot more hit points in previous versions. A level 1 wizard, for example, might have 25 hit points. I built a level 1 wizard that had 25 hit points. So I think he was a level 1 wizard, and no, he was a wizard. But he had 25 hit points. In 3.5, conversely, it is entirely possible to have a level 1 wizard that starts with 1 hit point, or maybe 4, somewhere right around there. And so you can see that there's a huge disparity. And of course, the monsters do deal more damage, and the players do as well. But that extra buffer of hit points allows more stuff to go on in that range before you die. So that's way cool. Now, in 4th edition, half of your hit points is your bloodied value. And what does this mean? Not a whole lot. It's just a useful number to say that you're half dead. When you've taken this much damage, you've entered in your bloody state. Now, I believe it is a rule somewhere. Our group has stopped playing with it, that if you take damage equal to your bloodied value in 1 hit, you die, flat out. That was too much damage, you're dead. I don't know if that's a canon rule or not. So if it is, and if it is for your group, use it. If not, I can totally understand. Our group stopped doing it mainly because our DM wanted to hit us with a lot of really big stuff. Your bloody value is also, other than just how much damage you can take in 1 hit, it also tells you when you die. When you reach negative hit points equal to your bloody value, once you get over that line, you're dead. There's no coming back from that. Well, there is plenty of ways for coming back. This is D&D. However, there's no coming back without a lot of work for everybody else who happens to still be alive. You are... And there's not much you can do about that. But of course, until you get to there, there's a lot of things going on. When you reach 0 hit points, you are unconscious. you're not necessarily dying, but at 0 hit points, you are helpless, you're falling down on the ground, and you can't get up, and there's not much you can do. Below 0 hit points is where you start having to make death saving throws, which is the 4th edition saving throw. You know, you roll a d10, not a d10, a d20, let me use the correct terminology, and if it's 10 or higher, it succeeds, and you don't have to worry about death. If it's 9 or lower, then you might be dying more. And normally you get 3 death saving throws. You have to fail 3 times before your character automatically dies. You know, this is like the similar thing to bleeding out that had happened in earlier versions. But I don't know a lot about that, so I'm going to stop and talk about 4th edition here. Once you are below 0 hit points, whenever you receive any healing of any type, you go to 0 and then receive that healing. So someone in our group made an epic tier character whose entire purpose was, yeah, you can hit on me, gods can hit on me, and hey look, I'm at negative 74 hit points. Well, I'm going to take my second wind and go to 0 and do it, and while I was in that negative, I was still killing. Wow, my grammar just failed. But he had a lot of things, and it was a very, very specific build to keep him conscious while he should be dying, and to increase his resistances and increase his damage. There was a lot of fun stuff that went into that character, and then as a DM, I couldn't beat him up. Because, hey, if you have a character whose job it is to not die, you should make it so that the DM can hit him reliably, especially if your character gets better when you have 0 or less hit points. That's just me. I think that was a character flaw in his character. I could not hit him, and therefore I could not deal damage to him without, like, artificially inflating the damage. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about healing. The most common, the easiest way in 4th edition to regain hit points is a short rest. There's 2 types of rest in D&D. There's a short rest and the extended rest. A short rest is like a 5-minute break after a battle, where you guys can stop, take a breath, regain, take a drink of water, maybe bite some food or something like that. During this, you get to spend healing surges, which are a 4th edition creation, which is the healing surge is worth 1/4 of your total hit points. And depending on your class and your race and your constitution score, you have a certain number of these per day. And once you're out of those, that's it. You can't use healing surges anymore. But in a short rest, if you got bloodied in that encounter, you might be able to sit down and say, yeah, I'm going to spend 2 healing surges, and I'm going to increase my hit points back up. And while you're taking a short rest, it doesn't matter. You can take as many as you need. I would not suggest more than 4 unless you really need it, because 4 ought to be your max hit points, and that should be all you would have to spend. So that is the easiest way in 4th edition to regain hit points. During combat, there's a lot of things that can toss you a healing surge. A lot of the leader classes, like bards, ardents, clerics, have spells that they can cast. Healing word, inspiring word, majestic word, other stuff. I can't remember what the others would be. But those would allow you to spend a healing surge to regain hit points in the middle of combat and roll some dice. This is impressive because it's like 5 minutes worth of rest time going in that one minor action is how most of their spells are. And there's a lot of stuff that can give you those hit points. So that's pretty useful. We didn't have that on Friday, and things would have been a lot different had we had that. Something else that you can do in combat to regain hit points is called Second Wind. You can use Second Wind once an encounter as a standard action. We'll talk more about the actions a little bit later this week, but as a standard action, it means that you can't attack and use Second Wind the same turn. You have to make that decision whether or not you really need that healing, or if you need to wait. If you want to wait. However, if you want to wait so you can make an attack. Let's finish sentences before I move on. However, when you use that Second Wind, not only do you spend a healing surge, but all of your defenses, your AC, your fortitude, your reflex, and your will, get an additional +2, making you harder to hit. That's because instead of outright attacking, you've taken a step back, you're taking a more defensive position, and you're just breathing, and you're just trying to get yourself back to how you were. Okay, only two more things that I can think of to talk about. The first is temporary hit points, which is pretty easy to explain. So there are some effects that give you temporary hit points, which last until the end of the encounter. And what that is it's hit points that are on top of your hit points. If you would get hit by magic missile, for example, and be taking 16 damage, and you have, say, 25 regular hit points and 10 temporary hit points, you use the temporary hit points first, and then you would, take the other stuff. So your temporary hit points, the 10 would take out 10 of that damage. You would actually take only 6 damage. That buzz or whatever it is from the temporary hit points would just redo it. I got two more things left now. So temporary hit points, pretty standard. If you would be given temporary hit points from 2 sources, you just take the biggest one. So if I have those 10 temporary hit points before I was pre-magic missiled, and somebody said, here, have an effect that gives you 9 temporary hit points, you don't add it saying that, oh, I have 19 temporary hit points now. You would just have 10 still. Or if someone did something bigger, have 12, you would have 12. They're not cumulative, they don't stack. It's just the highest value that you've had given you temporary hit points. So yeah, that's cool. The next thing that I want to slip in before I talk about the third item that was previously second are resistances and vulnerabilities. When you would take damage, these just add directly to that, and I don't believe those stack as well, which makes it kind of awkward. Supposedly they're changing it up in D&D next, but I have not looked at that area of it as much, because it's harder to get resistances at level 1. But that's not for this. Resistances, pretty easy. Resist 5 fire, so when you would take fire damage, you say, nope, I resist 5 of it. Don't ask me how it works with temporary hit points. I believe it would resist 4 your temporaries, but I'm not entirely sure. If you have more information, please leave that down below. Vulnerabilities add damage onto things. Pretty self-explanatory. Moving on to the final thing I want to talk about today. Saving throws. I mentioned death saving throws earlier, but there's some effects that monsters and players can give out that say, for example, a huge daily spell that catches something on fire could have an effect that says ongoing 10 fire damage, save ends. And what that means is at the start of whatever that turn is, say it's on me, at the start of my turn, I take 10 damage and it hurts. This could totally knock me out and I would have to make a death saving throw. I'm not exactly sure if you would lose being on fire. I might have to check that out. There will be totally a note in the description down below if being on fire can kill you when you're unconscious. I'm assuming it can, but I'm not sure when save ends actually ends. So yeah, see that down below. And so at the end of my turn is when I get to make a saving throw. So on the start of my turn, I take damage. At the end of my turn, I can just roll that d20 and see if I get a 10 or higher, pretty much a 2-digit number. Then that effect goes away and I won't take damage next turn. There is the one class, the Warden, that can allow you to take it before your turn starts, but that's a Warden specific feature. There's powers and stuff that do other things to let you do that. And there's also plenty of effects that happen with save ends. You could be dazed, you could be slowed, you could be prone save ends, as if you had ropes tying you down and you had to actually struggle and take time to break free. So yeah, most save end effects come into play at the beginning of your turn and have the chance to leave at the end of your turn. And if you fail that saving throw, then it'll come around next turn. Sometimes some powers have a failed saving throw. For example, Petrify is a spell that if you start slowing down, you're slowed, and if you miss that saving throw, you'll become helpless, I believe. I don't remember exactly how it progresses. But yeah, on that first failed saving throw, if you fail that first saving throw, the second condition triggers. And yeah, you can turn to stone if it's that spell. There's also some spells that have an after effect that when you make that save to remove the effect, another effect plays on. So those are some fun things that you can do with ongoing damage and save ends effects. I think I've talked about everything that I've wanted to talk about today. If you guys have any questions, please leave them down below. If you liked the video, hit the like video. And hey, if you're on Facebook and you're watching this, because I'm going to be posting this entire week on Facebook, hit like there too and leave comments there. I know Facebook doesn't have all the buttons that YouTube does, but it lets me know that people are watching, and that makes me feel more justified standing in front of a camera for 15 minutes, waving my hands like crazy and making pointing motions everywhere. So if you guys could do that, that would be awesome. Speaking of which, there's also a share button on YouTube and on Facebook. And if you know anyone who plays D&D or who's thought about playing playing D&D, or just in general who could use this video, please, please, please share it to them, whether on Facebook or on YouTube or however you would need to do it, and let them know about my channel. I would love to get more and more reliable of a fan base and start being able to do really cool things, because I know you guys are worth the effort. And finally, if you are on YouTube, there's also a subscribe button down below so that you can click on that and I can come every day to your YouTube subscription box. Well, not every day. 5 times a week is what I'm trying for this. So right now, talking is difficult today. And if you do click on subscribe, I will come to your YouTube subscription box every round until you save from ongoing video footage. My name is Mad Matt Wankow. This has been your daily dose of D&D. You guys stay online, and I will see you next time.